Welcome to KeyDigital's Compass Control Professional online certification course. This is level C1 Plus, where we will introduce and provide many examples of programming and installation, where we'll be utilizing the modular drag and drop programming methods. Here in C1 Plus Part 1, we will be emphasizing the modular version 2.0 GUI, and we'll walk through that GUI so you have full understanding of what exactly that GUI will look like for your client, so you can qualify if that is the correct GUI to be deployed on your next installation. Beginning in 2015, KeyDigital released our first modular programming method. That was after releasing Compass Control Pro in 2012, where we had full custom programming methods only. In 2015, again, we released the first module drag and drop programming method. It was a different layout and a different navigation for your end user to go through the iPad and to control their system. It was a little more conducive to specific installations where there was perhaps just one screen within a zone, whereas the Modular Project 2.0 we've now released here in 2018, and we were able to use our experience that we've gained in the last 6 years of having this product available and in the market, 6 years of expertise gained through building GUIs and viewing GUIs from our customers and our network of recommended programmers. And when we decided it was time for a facelift, we also decided the best way to go about that is to come up with our idea and make sure it passes the test of the 7 core applications that Compass Control Professional has been installed in. Those 7 core applications: corporate, digital signage, bar restaurant, education, house of worship, government, and residential AV control systems, can all be demoed in the Compass Control Professional app, available on iOS devices from the App Store. And in order to fully understand the module version 2.0 GUI, graphic user interface, it is very simple. It's 1, 2, 3, or ABC as we have it here. Scenarios, contents, and the module space. So take a look at these images here. A, scenarios, B, contents, and C, the module space. Scenarios are the table of contents for the primary uses for your client. So this is your home page, if you will. And really, when we build the scenarios and add scenarios to your programming, we're just building the buttons themselves. The events and actions that occur on when we press these scenario buttons is totally up to you, the programmer. By default, selecting a scenario will advance us to the next page. We'll show you on the next slide. However, some scenarios should have a selection macro. So for example, if I were to press the presentation button here, perhaps I, the programmer, decide it's in my client's most best interest and to make it most convenient for them that the projector should turn on, the screen should drop down, the presentation switcher should select a default source, etc., etc. And by selecting that scenario, it advances me here to the contents and module space view, where we now see the contents. That's on the left-hand side, that light gray list, if you will, where we are able to provide our user with the controllers or the modules that should be available within each scenario. And adding contents within a scenario is, again, just building those buttons and defining the properties. Should events and actions occur? Should a selection macro occur when I press these buttons on the left? Perhaps yes, perhaps no. We have full flexibility with each and every contents button to define if we would or would not like events and actions to occur. And if we do want those to occur, we are able to define what all those events and actions consisting of our macro should be. And by pressing one of those contents, it will adjust the module space, which is the larger area in dark gray there. There are 4 different types of contents. MultiZone Device is a content where we will view a matrix module in that module space, where we see all the outputs or multiple outputs and multiple inputs in that module space. For example, a matrix switcher is a prime example of that. Next, we have an AV endpoint, where instead of seeing instead of seeing multiple outputs all itemized in that module space, we just have a user-friendly selector where we have our various sources for a specified output. It could be an output of a matrix. It could be the television display itself, which is a switcher. It could be a professional switcher, like a presentation switcher. It can be an AV receiver. Okay? This is automatically built based on a tree that we will define in Compass Navigator. And it creates automatically a user-friendly interface, just nice big buttons with descriptive text for your client. Next, we have a single device. A single device is basically any module or remote that we'd like to view in that module space, having that contents button there so that we could then view that control module. Now, when I press the button from the contents, when I press a single device button from that contents listing, I can have events and actions on there. So for example, by pressing teleconferencing, do I want to just show the remote for the teleconferencing system? Or do I actually want to turn on the teleconferencing system? Adjust the volume level of my speakers and microphone. So it's totally up to the programmer to define that as we build button by button. And last, we have custom. A custom content is again, we're just building a button, so it's just whatever icon and whatever text we want it to be. Again, we could put macros on there. For example, in this screen, we show a shutdown button, which obviously we'd want to have loaded with events to turn off all of our displays, maybe mute our audio system, etc., etc. It could be used to do page jumps into a web page, for example, or into a custom page that we've built in our system. So these are the 4 content types. They all look the same as far as the buttons go. However, the way we define them defines what can happen and what it will look like as we press those contents. Lastly, you may be wondering, what about volume? Well, volume is associated with each scenario. So within each scenario, you could have a unique volume device or a unique output of a multi-zone device if needed. You could choose whether it's your slider should be visible or if it's just incremental control, like if if a television, if a display is my volume device within a scenario, then it's just going to be plus, minus, and mute. However, if I have a device like a multi-zone audio matrix or an AV receiver or an audio DSP, which is going to be my volume device for a given scenario, then we have the ability to say, let's go ahead and show that volume slider, as oftentimes end users really like that feature, and Compass Control fully supports sliders. Continue with your viewing of the C1 Plus, where we'll begin programming modular GUIs.